This is Black Money.
About economic liberation and freedom.
Critical conversations to invigorate our communities through Black-led CDFIs.
But most importantly, we want people to create wealth.
When we look at our communities, we still see a big disinvestment.
Going from resourceful to resourced.
CDFIs have that high touch. They understand their customers. They know how to reach out to those customers. They stay in touch with those customers.
We are trying to create job makers and not just job takers.
Yeah, I've even heard it said recently that great leaders don't lead from the top down, they lead from the bottom up because they're actually lifting everybody.
We have to do more than just being a regular lender.
Don't give me this story about if I teach you how.
Hey, I knew you'd like that one, Calvin. I knew you'd like that. Welcome, everybody, to this edition, the first one of the new year, LinkedIn Live. And what a guest we have here in Calvin Slocum. Now, I need you to know about this brother here. I mean, look how lined up his hairline is. His life is aligned. His work is aligned. Everything's aligned. Now, man, you know I got to go in on it. So now Calvin officially is at Northeast Oklahoma City. Renaissance was the Revolving Loan Fund manager and is now the director of lending. How does it feel to be a whole director? Let's start there. You're directing.
Oh, man. I always joke with my ED. I was doing the work anyway. So, I'll leave it at that.
Hey, that's okay. Quentin, you're getting called out, man. He's doing the work. Oh, yeah, well, man. Beautiful. We're going to jump right into this interview. And as always, if anybody is here tuning in, for all those folks who are tuning in, please lean into the chat. Let us know who you are. We want this to be a networking space as well as a space for questions and discussions. Drop the amens, do all the things. You know, if you see my beard looking good, say something. I got it done this morning for you, Calvin. I really did, early this morning, 8 a.m., just to make sure I could make it ahead of work. You know that?
That's what's up, bro.
Big deal. So now, Calvin, talk about your journey. You've had an incredible journey through real estate and all different kinds of things to land in this position where you're doing this really impactful work with Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance. Give us the making of Calvin Slocum.
Oh, man. Not originally from Oklahoma, man. I was a military kid. My dad is originally from New Orleans. My mom's originally from Alabama. So I've been in Oklahoma so long, it's home. So just kind of grew up here, man. Graduated from Oklahoma State University, studied accounting, and was working in banking historically in just different roles. A majority of that was in audit, compliance roles, things of that nature. Did a little bit of accounting, man, and just being nosy as an auditor. As an auditor, you learn a lot and you get a high level view of financial institutions. So even looking in the commercial loan files, just wondering kind of, what qualifies these people to be able to pull leverage like this. And a lot of people don't know I'm a licensed real estate broker as well, doing some small scale development in our community as well. And that's kind of where my journey started, was in real estate, man. Wanted to build wealth through land and property ownership. And that's how I actually got familiar with my organization as well. I knew them for their real estate conference before they were even known as Renaissance. I think it was the Northeast Oklahoma City Developers Conference. And then they kind of transitioned to what it's known to now with the Placekeepers cohorts. We're tremendously known for our technical assistance programs. As I mentioned to you earlier, man, our program's relatively new. But yeah, that's where things started for me, man, is kind of in real estate, buying low-income properties, doing Section 8, helping that demographic of people. And it just kind of turned into something. And so I actually was attending the conferences that my organization was hosting at the time. And then I actually went through the second cohort of the real estate development program and thoroughly enjoyed it, man. Met some lifelong friends and made some great connections. For some people, they might say some of the information was redundant, but for me, it was really, really a great networking tool, man. And I met some really, really important connections that really just drove me to where I am now. So, yeah, man, I could go on about that, but that's kind of how I got familiar. And to bring it full circle, they wanted to build out a CDFI, and I was previously working for another local CDFI at the time, doing some credit underwriting. So with my experience in, community development and banking, it was just the perfect fit, man. So that's kind of how I landed where I'm at now. And yeah, it was the perfect marriage, man. I truly enjoy it. It's a lot of work because we're building this thing out from ground up, man.
Which we are definitely going to get into.
Yeah. So you already know what comes with that. So it's a lot of work, man. Some days I'm just like, man, it's a lot of work, but, just staying 10 toes and just continuing to grind. And I know things will fall into place. Looking to get some of my first staff onboarded this quarter. So that'll be a huge weight off my back once we can finally get that complete, now that we've gotten through some of the other bottlenecks that we've had, which we'll discuss later on as well. So
yeah, no, that's a big deal, man. So here's what I want to know. It's hard. What's your why? Why are you doing this? Like, why are you doing this hard work? Like, you could be out, making lots of money, doing lots of different things, which, no problem with that. But there are people that are just in this space because they believe it's important. Why? Why are you doing this?
Man, that's a great question, Justin. I think for me, man, like, I went to a PWI. Oklahoma State, there's not a lot of Black students walking around. And I'm a generation who lived through the Mike Brown, and I was, at, a public university when that happened. And kind of that generation who you saw the opportunity, obviously, that's happened with George Floyd and all these things, So I was kind of that generation that was advocating for certain things. And I remember finding myself frustrated because, it's like, my ancestors, my elders, they fought these battles. Why are these things? Why are they still happening? You know what I mean? And I might have developed some ideology that people would call extreme at some points. For me, man, it was economic liberation. That's where I landed.
Hold on, pause. Time out. I understand. There's a lot of people like, wow, like, they've really been, extremiated, whatever it's called. Like, you've become an extreme person. How is equity? How is economic liberation extreme? Like, I'm talking about just the ability to move freely and do what you're on the planet to do. How is this extreme? Like, this is what's so crazy, right? Like, you would say, like, wow, my ideology's got extreme. I believe in economic liberation. Like, that's not extreme. This is basic, fundamental human stuff. So anyway, keep going. I love it.
No, man. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's kind of just where I landed, man. Just like MLK said, he said, I'm afraid I'm integrating my people into a burning house. And he talked about how, the white folks from Europe had more of an economic basis than we did, but we were foundational Black Americans. So I think sometimes we were miseducated on some of the things that our ancestors and our leaders of the past were trying to tell us. And the time of the civil rights movement, and if you look at what happened with FHA and land runs, I live in Oklahoma. The history of the Sooner State and the land run is an amazing one. And we have
tell us briefly about that one, because that one's I'm not familiar with.
Oklahoma was established in 1907, 1908. Don't make fun of me, guys, but yeah, early 1900s. And a lot of people don't know we were Indian territory. So we were a free territory. So we had a lot of Black people that would escape from the South and plant themselves here, with the Native American tribes, and we lived along. They lived together. And back when statehood was being brought up, the Blacks, the African Americans, and the Native Americans, they didn't want statehood because they knew it would come with Jim Crow South laws. So it was a big thing. You've heard of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, one of the Black Meccas. It would have been comparable to Atlanta today if it wasn't burned down. So we have a rich Black history that a lot of people don't know about, what happened here in Oklahoma and what Oklahoma was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a Black state, and a lot of people don't know that. So, but yeah, Oklahoma has a rich history, even Northeast Oklahoma City with Deep Deuce and, what my organization is trying to do. We talk about Deep Deuce thriving and what a 2040 Deep Deuce looks like, and reviving the culture of, what it used to be before, urban renewal. And eminent domain, took some of our neighborhoods and, ran highways through it. So a lot of a rich history, man, with my organization and our mission and what we're really trying to accomplish in Northeast Oklahoma City. And eventually, I want to be regional, long term when I talk about what my 2040 Deep Deuce goals are. So I always say it's Black folks everywhere, defining things by predominantly Black counties, Black cities, and kind of going from there. So I think there's an opportunity in this space when you talk about financial institutions and what's happening with acquisitions and mergers and the different reg between credit unions and banks and community banks, depending on asset size. And that's what my long-term goal is, is how do you get into bank ownership, and how do we really do this at a larger scale, man?
I love it. I love it. Shout out to a couple people in the chat here. Tiffany Taylor, I got to mention this beard any chance I get. I got nothing up top. So this is all I have. And it's a poor dog that won't wag his own tail or whatever it says. So, hey, beard's looking good. I got to say something. And shout out to Ron Brooks. one of our newest Alliance board members. I see you, Ron, out here outworking the work. That's his phrase, and I love it. I just keep saying it all the time. He outworks the work. He's ahead of it. It's beautiful. So Calvin, this journey that you've been on has been an incredible one. You're doing this work. Give us a little bit more about what Renaissance is currently doing. You mentioned a couple things, and then I want to get into how you've actually developed this loan program. And now, can I call it Renaissance instead of Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance? Like, can I do that?
I call it Renaissance. I know they like the Northeast at the beginning. Sometimes, they're passionate about that. So,
which I'm happy to rep whatever I need to rep. But for the sake of the interview, I didn't do my tongue exercise, the how now, brown cow, Nemo. I didn't do that. And so putting all these words together can be a little bit difficult. So can I?
I got you, man. We'll roll with Renaissance then.
Yes, but everyone knows Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance.
Got you.
Now known for the rest of this document as Renaissance. Okay. All right. So now, where was I going with that one? The work of Renaissance. Talk about your portfolio, what you guys got going on right now.
Man, so Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance is really, really known for our technical assistance programs. So we have OMFA, which is the Oklahoma Minority Founders Accelerator, which is our small business technical assistance program. And then we also have Placekeepers, which is our real estate development program, which is a program I told you I went through myself. So that's what we're known for. And it kind of just turned into a thing about becoming a community development financial institution. So we got some seed money from a local foundation. The Arnall Family Foundation has seeded my program for the first 3 years. Wow. So taking that money and being able to leverage to go seek more dollars. Part of my investment thesis is centered around CRA, leveraging some of my commercial banking relationships to get some money through CRA. And one of the challenges has been, all the big banks know about it because they need it really bad, but like, how do you explain it to the community banks? And then even how do you talk to credit unions about it, even though they're not subject to CRA? So that's kind of a niche that I'm trying to create a thesis around and kind of even expand outside of, the CDFI funds program with EQ2s. That's kind of similar, working with banks for monetary awards. So man, we're trudging through a lot of things, man. I'm building this thing out from ground up, but I have a great team, man, and learning a lot as I go as well, man. Like you said, you really have to love this work. You get nonprofit burnout at sometimes, but I could be doing a lot of different things, but I really like the impact that I'm making in Northeast Oklahoma City and the ability to eventually make a broader impact as we really get this thing humming. So.
Yeah, you're doing it. You are absolutely doing it. I'm loving these pieces in the chat. I see you, Ron, in here. And then Sophonia has a question here. Is eligibility for these programs geographically bound by Oklahoma? What's your answer to that? And then I got a couple things to chip in on that.
Yeah, so right now we are very hyper local to Oklahoma City. Even trying to stay in Northeast Oklahoma in our specific ward at this point. So that's really, really, really small area when you drill down into it. So that's where our original dollars right now are going towards. But as I expand balance sheet a little bit more and get more capital, we'll definitely be reaching the entire metro, which, I'm projecting that to be here very soon, man. So, I just started in April of 24, so just rolling up on a year. So for y'all who know what it means to build out a CDFI, y'all know the process and it takes some time. So, but things are falling into place, man. So I'm super excited about what year 2 is going to bring.
I love it. Okay, that's where we're going next. Talk about behind the scenes, building a loan fund, getting that to be a CDFI, what that process has really looked like in real time. Because not a lot of people, and I can say this, a lot of folks that listen are thinking about getting involved in deploying capital in their communities, or they see that there's these capital gaps and they want to step into that in some way, but really don't know what that looks like in real time. So walk us through that journey, because I think that'll be really helpful for folks.
Oh man, it's tough, man, but it's like my organization is the perfect example of an organization who was a really grassroots community organization, a lot of community engagement. And like I said, was about technical assistance and capacity building. And then you try to add the financial institution aspect, and it creates a little bit of conflict because there are things that you kind of have to change about yourself when you're looking at certain things, and maybe having a certain level of experience and knowledge on your board, those are all hurdles as you kind of make that transition to like, hey, we want to be a lender. We're an unregulated lender depending on what you're doing, but still understanding what comes with that and the process from, application, intake, origination to underwriting to booking and servicing, compliance, depending on where you're getting your dollars. Like there are a lot of different sub processes within the lending process. And when you really lay that out and the capacity that you need, really taking that into consideration has been, one of the hard things as we build this out and being tugged in, different directions. So right now I'm a one-man shop. Like I said, we're currently looking at applications for, my first staff. So it's been a journey, man, but I would say just really doing an assessment of all those different areas, what you're going to outsource, what you're going to be doing, what, if you're running slim and you're running lean, like, okay, if we hire somebody, like everybody here is doing 2 or 3, if not 5 things, but what are the 2 or 3 things they're going to be doing and getting a well-rounded individual at that. And like you mentioned, corporate America pays a little bit more, but I love the work that I'm doing, with this organization. So find somebody who loves the work as well, because when you're where we're at, it's like, hey, this could take some time, but if you could stick around, like it could be a really, really great thing. So.
Well, and I believe you can't teach passion. You can teach the rest of it, right? Like you can learn loan origination, underwriting, you can learn all these things, but you can't learn passion. You can't learn to care about this type of stuff as easily. So I love the way you're approaching that. Now, how did you go from concept, okay, we want to do some lending, what have been some of the nuts and bolts to build it even to this point and even bring us up to where you're at right now?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think really identifying a target market and like, what are we doing? Like we have these dollars, but all right, like who are we trying to get them to?
And these are the foundation dollars you're talking about? You got
these? Yes, it's the foundation dollars. And that's kind of been something we had to trudge through too, because I don't even think our funder, like I don't think there was clear understanding of, where the money was going to go. And was it really going to be easy to perform depending on, the parameters they put around these dollars. So, I love the opportunity they've given us. So, we kind of just worked backwards and backed into it, and that's kind of how we got that geographic limitation. But one of the hardest things it's been is like we work in a blighted community. And as we really looked through some of the data was like, man, we can't even really name 5 to 10 like cash flowing businesses where our office is located in a 2-mile radius that are Black owned, we're in the heart of Northeast Oklahoma City. And I recognize that there's a huge opportunity for some consumer lending, like because a lot of those people that we're looking to serve are low to moderate income or very low income. And it's like, they're not thinking about commercial lending. Maybe they're thinking about debt consolidation. So, we have been in talks with CBA about potentially accessing their program to deploy dollars as well. But I think that's been the hardest thing is explaining to people what we're doing. And when we're trying to get these dollars out, like they're high risk at the end of the day. Like these are people who, may not be bankable. Like there's going to be a collateral deficiency, and just trudging through all of that when you're trying to explain, like, are you expecting us to perform on these dollars? You know what I mean? Like, how is this actually working? Because like right now I'm factoring in a 10 to 20% loss. You know what I mean? As we build this out, we got about $1 million through our first 2 years just to lend, which is a great chunk, but in commercial lending, that's not a lot of money. So
that goes quick.
It goes very quick. So, even if we get it all out the door, when we get it all out the door, we're going to be look up. That's not self-sustainability. So we're still talking about, okay, what does the future look like? Whether this foundation partner, moves forward with us after the first 3 years or not, so exploring SBA, USDA, EDA money. I mentioned EQ2 program through CDFI fund, impact notes. Like, how are we going to capitalize to really be able to scale and deploy dollars and drive housing, which is, my ultimate goal. And if you're trying to drive housing, you're looking at a minimum loan size of $250,000, give or take. So, there's a lot of moving pieces, and the day-to-day can be tough, man, when you're a one-man shop. But man, I really, really love the work. And I know once we really get our process down and, I can get some staff on board that, things will smooth out as well. So.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad that you're plugged into the alliance too, because even as you were talking about like 10 to 20% loss and all these different things that you're looking at for what feels like high risk type of loans, like there's a lot of our members who have figured that piece out, like alternative approaches to credit worthiness, alternative approaches to underwriting that have them still at very low defaults, like industry comparable normal default levels, but lending to quote higher risk individuals and situations because they've been able to look at it through a different lens to assess actual repayment ability. So like glad that you're plugging into that space because there's a lot. And for any Alliance members who are on here, I would love to hear your approaches here, even in this chat, to make this a live conversation, because like I know Ron, you're doing it. I know Tiffany, you're doing it. If you guys are still on the chat, would love to hear about that. So something that you mentioned that I want to talk about here is you mentioned the ability for, nonprofit burnout, right? You're in the work and it's hard and you're doing it. And who's caring for the people who are caring for the people? Practically, how are you navigating that to make sure that you're able to show up as you, and I'm talking about you, the leader, right? Like, how are you navigating self-care to make sure that you have what you need as you to do the work that you're doing? Because it's not easy.
Oh man, I'm known for just taking a break sometimes, man. So some days I think it's good to do nothing. Maybe you just put it down, especially when you're juggling as many things as I'm juggling. But man, I would also just say my team, man. I have strong leadership. Dr. Quentin Hughes, man, he's a great executive director, man, and he's been at it longer than I have. So somebody that I enjoy working with. And us as a team, sometimes we just have sessions where we just complain, and I hate complaining, but I'm like, man, I needed that. I needed to get that off my chest. So, man, just being open and honest about it, man. I've never been one of those people, like I said, to complain or always be like, man, this is a journey, but until I got into the nonprofit sector, I was used to corporate America where they pay you to do one, maybe two things. So, and it comes with, a way better benefits package. So it's just like, what it is, man. But yeah, man, just really being passionate about the work and being in a space where not only do I work with great people, man, but the opportunity for the challenge, you know what I mean? Working with your people is different, man. I'm in a space where my opinion is valued, and you don't get that in corporate America where you're not with people who don't look like you, you know what I mean? So, and we all know what it is to be a Black entrepreneur or a Black business owner and build something out and the challenges that come with that, you know what I mean? So just looking around and being like, man, whether I work there or not, I would still be tied to this ecosystem doing the work in the community anyway. So, I might as well be there.
Might as well get paid to do it, man. I love that. Now, talked about Dr. Quentin Hughes. What's so special about this guy? Because I've just loved from the moment I met him. He's just been such a gem. What do you see boots on the ground from this community leader?
Man, Quentin's one of the most intelligent people that I know. I've told him that too, man. Just very intelligent, and he's kind of taught me how to run ecosystems, man. And even when it comes to people management or what it looks like to have human capital, and as we build this thing out, like how you manage your relationships is a huge thing. So when I hear him explain what his vision for 2040 Deep Deuce and long term is, my wheels start turning, because I'm like, okay, how can I be the glue to this, and where do I fit in, and what is true cooperative economics look like, as we all kind of spit out our dreams and where we fit in the community? Because some people aren't operators. Maybe you don't want to do this, but you want to put somebody else onto it. Maybe you just want to be a capacity builder. So thinking about all those things and really creating a culture to where it's like where we all get to eat, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. We got a question from Ron here. Thoughts on how you look to diversify funding sources as you build your organization, particularly in light of today's news with temporary pausing of federal dollars, and even would love to dig deep into this funding landscape, right? Like you were talking about CRA, some of these things could be affected in this new landscape. So what are you seeing? How are you diversifying? How are you building in this climate?
Right. Man, that's a great question. I think that's something that is on everybody's leadership agenda, just talking to that. I saw something come out today about a pause on federal grants. So, man, I don't know. I think it's an active, ongoing situation. I know one thing that I'm lucky for is that Oklahoma has some of the healthiest banks in the nation. We have a lot of oil money. And I think unless CRA is impacted, I'm projecting a lot of balance sheet growth there. Also, our foundation partner on our family foundation has been really good to us, and there are talks about funding beyond year 3. So I'm really just leaning into that, man. And I think part of it too is like you got to strike while the iron is hot. So I think there are certain programs I'm mad I didn't go after last year that they were kind of begging us to apply for, but it was just like a capacity issue. Like we just weren't there. And it's like, hey, we got to get loans on the books before we go after some of this stuff. Like we got to get a better track record too. So like you're looking at the opportunity, but also like looking at where you're at and kind of like prioritizing what you should capture first. So some of it was like, what's low hanging fruit right now? But I think that's a really great question, man. And when we were in leadership meetings talking about funding, I know we had a 7-figure budget gap in one of our technical assistance programs because ARPA dollars are no longer. So yeah, it's a lot to tread through as we go through the budget process and think about, where we want to be long term and what that'll look like. So.
And I think in any chaos, and this is something I say often, whether it's, we had COVID or whatever it is, in any chaos, there is opportunity. So it's like, how can we find, even though there's a lot of destruction, it's like, okay, what are the opportunities for us to even come out better than before, because I think that's one of the things I love most about Black people is like they try to bury us, but they forgot we were seeds.
Oh,
like,
we just resilient. And I tell my team too, not to operate in fear, man. Like you said, like, doesn't matter who's president, we're going to figure it out. So, and I think there will be dollars in other places as well. You might have to change your strategy, but, we'll get it figured out. I don't want to say I'm not stressed about it, but I'm confident we'll get it figured out. So I think it'll be other opportunities elsewhere. And that's why a strategy of our mission is to be kind of apolitical in a sense, because we know that, the political climate, especially in a state like Oklahoma, I think you need to solve a problem for both sides. So, I mean, we've even talked about trudging into USDA dollars and rural development for that reason. And I think that the system has a way of putting poor white people and poor Black people against each other. So they have more in common than they think. So I think there's a way to kind of be a chameleon and get some additional dollars on the balance sheet through other programs as well, even if the landscape changes a little bit.
That's Ron. Oh man, I gotta put this one up. He said, how do I get this one up here? He said, tell Calvin OnlyFans is not a solution. So that's good. Hey, don't try to be going on OnlyFans to diversify. But he loves how you're thinking, and I do love that. Beautiful. A couple questions for you here. Now, you were talking about getting loans on the books. What has that looked practically now? You were talking about some of your pipeline because of technical assistance ahead of the show. Talk about how that looks and how it actually looks to get loans deployed.
Oh, man, it's a process. So we kind of were in a situation where my loan pipeline blew up organically, man. Like no advertising, no marketing really, just because of our technical assistance programs, word of mouth, like our awesome board members telling people about what was going on. So I think right now, man, I probably have 12 to 15 people I need to follow up with. And I'm projecting to book half of those, honestly, because I've had initial phone calls with them. But it's a thing because, people who work in banking, we understand it like, hey, man, this is a good deal. Let's just book it. But like, you got to go through a process. Like, it's not my business. It's not what I would do. So like, I think that was navigating one things. And like, man, just being honest, like we're an organization based out the predominantly Black side of town. Like our board is awesome, but like, and they're great leaders in the community, but we needed some heavy hitters and like some better knowledge when it came to certain areas of like what we were trying to do. And then we had a lot of knowledge roll off of our board too. So like that was a risk, but we were just navigating through a lot, man. So pipeline blew up. I'm sitting here writing credit memos like, yeah, let's get this approved. Let's go. And like, the board's kind of like, oh, what are we doing? Right. So I think that was a thing. Like, I think they were like, they know it's this thing that we're doing, but then like when it actually came up, like, oh, we're about to make a loan, like,
right? Whoa! Like that was cool in theory.
Yeah. You start thinking about the risk and like the implications of what this means of actually becoming a lender, and the need to just engage consultants and attorneys about, what we're doing, you know what I mean? And I have great knowledge when it comes to compliance, but even me needing that reassurance from a risk standpoint, knowing that, all right, we're just doing commercial lending. We're not getting into consumer right now, but there's still some compliance and reg that opens up when you start pulling credit reports and things of that nature. So, man, it's been a lot. My day looks different every day. Some days it's this, meeting people for coffee or lunch. Some days I'm underwriting. So some days I'm taking the phone call. So, it's really exciting, man, the way that it's blown up. But to answer your question, you got to get a process down. And if you call it a 3 or 4 part process, you're probably going to be doing 2 of those parts in-house, and you're probably going to be outsourcing or looking to hire somebody for help for the other ones. And then always consider servicing. I think that's one thing that I'm trudging through right now is, as we book this, I'm literally tracking it in a spreadsheet right now, but what servicing system works best for us for where our budget is. And I'm in talks about how long we can just, operate out of an Excel sheet before I'm like, hey, we need to get the cheapest option, and that's going to be pretty soon here. But servicing is a job and a task within itself. So we kind of had to slow down, man. We put the the cart before the horse, rather, on certain things. And we have good problems, though, man. We have really great problems, but now we're just refining processes. Finally got, like I told you, delegation of authority implemented so we can have an approval limit in-house, finalizing my loan committee. We got some great 20 and 30-year bankers to volunteer to be on our loan committee, and the addition of some board members with some great economic and finance experience. So
how do you find with the 20 to 30-year bankers, how do they respond to the CDFI space with all the differences and nuances being more mission-oriented, different credit approach or different risk approach? How are they doing in that space?
Man, so I'll be honest with you. I had to vet them. There were some of them that I was like, I love your experience, but I didn't tell them this, but you just wouldn't be a great fit for that reason. So, obviously the people.
Right, you're too institutionalized.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have to be able to think outside the box and consider our mission. And that's one thing that I've educated them on is hey, we have a scale that also considers, social and economic impact while it considers, credit risk. And we look at that scales kind of subjectively. And I actually kind of created a point system that prioritizes projects based on, where they're located, what the ownership looks like. So it's hey, if you're Black owned, you're located on our side of town, whatever the case may be, you're going to get more points than somebody from outside the community. But there's still room for overlay too. Maybe you're white, but you're doing housing on our side of town. We support that. Yeah. But, still making sure, the dollars go to what's most aligned with our mission, so.
That's powerful. I love how you're thinking about that. Now, you mentioned Dr. Hughes is a big proponent of ecosystem building. What does that look like from a, financial product perspective, being in the ecosystem and thinking ecosystem minded? Because a lot of our other CDFI members are in this space doing ecosystem building and really realizing they need to bring community together in a way that, allows their borrowers to thrive, and build the support around them. What does that look like for you all? What's your approach and what have you learned in that space?
Yeah, man, I think that's a great question. I think a great example for us here in Oklahoma City, man, would be construction. Construction trades are a top 3 industry for us. We're one of the fastest growing cities in the nation, man. We're not huge, but we're approaching 2 million people. We're about 1.6 right now, but we got about a 4% growth rate. The Hispanic population's doubled over the past decade. So we're an emerging city. And one thing we noted was basically that there were a lot of contractors who, had the potential to scale. But one of the things was, when you start chasing city or federal contracts, and is the bonding that you need or the upfront cash that it takes to get started. So I think within our ecosystem, we realized that because of Placekeepers, our real estate development technical assistance program, and the need for trades, you know what I mean? I think if you grew up, in our generation in that 15 to 20 window where you weren't thinking about HVAC or plumbing or becoming an electrician,
Right.
And we talk about how long term, I think there could be a generation younger than us who will be forced into trades, especially with the implementation of AI, like what you're seeing in technology. Who needs an accountant when you have supercomputers? So I think that's one thing we've recognized in our ecosystem. And I basically, to answer your question, created a gap funding product specific to contractors for that reason. I don't care what your credit score is if you can show me a contract from the city or the federal government. That's as good as gold. That's A1 paper. So I think that would be a perfect example of a product that I created and a need that we recognize within our ecosystem for sure.
You're so cool, man. This is great. Now, 2 closing questions here. Unless the chat has anything else, y'all hop in. We got Calvin Slocum here. Brilliant mind. You're going to want to take advantage of it. Now, closing questions. What does Black liberation mean to you? I've loved seeing the responses across the board from all the interviews that we've done and the different approaches that people take. What does it mean to you?
Man, that's a great question, Justin. I could rant. But Black liberation to me, man, is just remembering that our people also died not just for the right to vote, but the right to own and control our own resources. And I'm a bit of a Pan-Africanist at times. And, I'm an African-American, but I also do believe that, across the diaspora that we do need to practice cooperative economics. And I think that other groups of people benefit, globally from that, and when you talk about supply chain management, and one of my favorite ancestors is Marcus Garvey. He talked about how you connect, the southern United States to the Caribbean back to West Africa and kind of what that meant. And, some people consider that extreme or don't see the value in it, but that is
more the former. I think they're afraid of the value of it. If you know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
no, exactly. So that's what it means to me, man. And not just, everybody is at a different level, but there's personal finance, and then there's scaling that. But then what does it look like to scale that? I know long term for me, we've talked about equity fund creation. I've talked about bank ownership and large scale, macroeconomics. What does it look to order stuff by the train load and ship it across seas? And how do you connect dots and lines that way? So long-term goals, man, but, it starts here at home, connecting dots, but that's what it looks like to me. And I think that there is no liberation without an economic base. Lobbying exists for a reason, and people have to be able to put their dollars behind what they want. So.
Wow. Now, I'm going to double down on this piece about connecting the diaspora globally, because one thing I was, digging into over the last couple of years, but, Malcolm X, near the end of his life, this was a big piece that he was trying to start to figure out, as having from here to the continent, connecting that. And there's a lot of folks that believe that's why he finally got taken out, because there were government policies talking about how dangerous it would be for Black people to connect economically across the continent, what that would mean for both Black America and the Black continent to do that. So I'm planting that seed here to say, whoever's doing that work, keep doing that work, because they can't stop us. Like, that seed is there and it needs to keep growing. So I'll say that. Maybe that's extreme. Too bad. That's what it is. Y'all gave me the mic.
Definitely, man. I love it. But yeah, for sure, man. I think, like you said, man, they killed all of our leaders who even talk about this. You know what I mean? And I think that, but we're
same with MLK. This is where he was going. He was going more on economics. Before they took him out. So it's like,
during a time where they gave away,
he's a martyr, or he gave his life for what he believed in. He didn't give his life; it was taken.
Yeah,
he didn't give it. Right? Like, this is, Oh, look at, see, we got Ron. I'm getting everybody fired up over here, man. let me stop. But you finish your thought. What do you have on that?
No, man, I was just agreeing with you for sure. And like you said, they killed all of our leaders at a time where they were giving away all the land and resources. And I think that's huge when you really think about it. So definitely, man, that's where I'm at. That's where my work is. And, starting here in my local community. But, as I grow in this mission, I want to be able to connect those dots and travel abroad and do those type of things, man. So starting here locally, doing some real estate development, business acquisitions, and would love to be able to connect some dots in other countries eventually.
And we have some Alliance members who are from the continent now in America doing their work. And so they have like some really powerful work that they're leaning into and connecting. So happy to make those connections for you as well. All right, closing piece. What is something that not everybody knows about Calvin Slocum? A little known fact or a hidden talent, like you're secretly a world-class flautist. That's a flute player. I found out recently. Did you know a flute player was called a flautist?
I did not.
See? You were today years old when you learned that. Okay, so what's something about Calvin Slocum that not everybody would know?
I'm a leap year baby, man. I'm 8 years old.
You're 8 years old.
Yeah.
Leap year. How does that feel? Now so that would have been last year was a leap year for you.
It was. I actually had a birthday last year. It was actually. So we'll have another one until 2028. So
how does that feel, man? How's that been your whole life?
Man, it's been cool. Actually, I just celebrated on both days, the 28th of February and March 1st, since it's technically the 365th day. But
yeah, okay. I like that approach.
You just get 2 days out of it, man.
So on your not leap year, I never even thought about that. Like what day do people celebrate on their not? So March 1st. And now, is that standard? Have you had like a leap year support group or something that you've connected into in some way? Like what's standard practice for leap year babies?
Nah, man. I mean, I celebrate the 28th just because I was born in February, not March. But, some people like March 1st is the 365th day, technically. I know on my 21st birthday, I went in on February 28th. Yeah. And my driver's license said under 21 until February 28th, and they would not sell to me until March 1st.
That's some BS, man.
Technically, it depends on who you ask.
Wow. But I didn't know, man. This is good. Thanks for the knowledge today. I really appreciate that. And we got Ron Brooks so fired up. I'm going to put this one back up here. So he was telling people to move their money to Tri-State Bank, MLK, and was murdered the next day. But yeah, happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Tiffany, you didn't like that? Leave your support group. I mean, I just feel like everyone needs to find their community, right? So, Calvin, you are a special person born on a special day, and thank you for your wisdom, your knowledge today, your heart, and everything that you're doing. The Alliance is in your corner, here to support. So any last closing thoughts for the good people of LinkedIn and YouTube?
No, man. Hey, Justin, I appreciate the time, man. So grateful for the Alliance and the connections and the friends I've made through that organization. You guys made this job just more pleasant and easier. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your time and the opportunity to talk, man. And I'm pretty sure I'll see you this year at the conference. So.
Oh, yeah. I'll be there. All right. Well, keep it up. Everybody on LinkedIn, thanks so much for making the time. You could have been anywhere else, and you chose to be here with us, and I do not take that for granted. So share this interview out. We want to definitely amplify the work of Renaissance, also known as Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance. Yes. Nailed it on the end. So share this interview out. It costs you nothing, but it does a lot for these organizations to amplify their work and their mission. So, all right. Keep changing the world, y'all. Talk soon.
Yes, sir. Hey, be easy, man.
This is Black Money.
About economic liberation and freedom.
Critical conversations to invigorate our communities through Black-led CDFIs.
But most importantly, we want people to create wealth.
When we look at our communities, we still see a big disinvestment.
Going from resourceful to resourced.
CDFIs have that high touch. They understand their customers. They know how to reach out to those customers. They stay in touch with those customers.
We are trying to create job makers and not just job takers.
Yeah, I've even heard it said recently that great leaders don't lead from the top down, they lead from the bottom up because they're actually lifting everybody.
We have to do more than just being a regular lender.
Don't give me this story about if I teach you how